Hey friend, welcome back to the channel. So a few years ago, I decided to make a pretty big investment in my home studio lighting. At that point, I had literally recorded all of my online course videos, any of the other videos, webinars, any of that kind of stuff, and even done things like Zoom meetings on a simple Logitech C920 webcam, and it wasn't very fancy at all, and I had invested like $0 in any sort of other lighting. But a few years ago, as my online course started to grow and just sort of felt that creative energy, I decided, saved up for several months and decided to invest in some pretty heavy duty gear. In today's video, I want to give you a behind the scenes look at my home studio setup and particularly the lighting that we use in order to take our home studios to the next level. Before jumping in, on the screen you'll see one of my initial test shots, and I actually wanted to share this picture because it's so easy to look at a current version of a video like this and be like, oh my gosh, like how do I even get to that level? And the irony of this is I look at other creators and I'm like, man, I'm not quite at that level yet either. So I wanted to share this picture because when I look at it, I see obvious things like, man, there's highlights are blown out, there's a lot of light coming in, I probably needed a haircut 6 weeks ago, just like currently I probably should have gotten a haircut like 2 weeks ago. But at the same time, I'm also so grateful for these errors because they allowed me to test and refine and make those what I call 0.1% tweaks that just make things better over time and make things better the more that you do it. And just to give you a heads up, as we're going through this video, I'm going to include just some screenshots and kind of behind the scenes pictures and all of those things to make it a lot easier for you to understand. So the very first light that you want to think about is what's called a key light. This is the best investment that you can make in your home studio. In fact, I would probably, if you can, save up money and invest in a nice quality one because it will last you for many years. I use the Aputure 120D and the Aputure Light Dome 2. A little bit of a warning, it's big and it's bulky, so it may not fit if you have sort of a small workspace, but there is a little bit of a workaround. So particularly the Aputure, the Light Dome 2 is big, and the benefit of that is you get just more of a diffuse light surface and it just makes the light come onto your face just a lot more natural looking. So I'm recording this video, I'm gonna just turn on and off, and this is the actual other benefit of the Aputure 120D. It comes with a remote, and so you can kind of tell the difference that this light really makes. And so if you have a smaller space, there's actually something called the Light Dome Mini 2. And that's something to check out as well. But in short, you basically want as much of a diffuse surface as possible in order for that light to come through, so it just has a more natural look on your face. And it gives a little bit more of a cinematic look. Now, just getting the Aputure 120D and the Light Dome is often not enough. You actually need a stand in order to hold this 120D and this Light Dome too, and it is heavy. And I wanted to just share. So one is, consider getting one of what they call these heavy duty light stands, and in the description of this video I'll include a link to my course creator starter kit, my studio kit, and you can see the one that I use. But I wanted to give an additional tip. So you may notice, I wear glasses, and so one of the challenges that I was initially having was I had a hardest time figuring out an angle to put this Aputure 120D. So generally what they say is you should kind of put it at if you're looking at the camera, you should put it kind of at a 10 o'clock or a 2 o'clock from you. But because I had glasses, I couldn't figure out how high to make it. And what I actually found is to almost have it at a 45-degree angle, so at a 10 o'clock, and then lift the light stand up. So the light stand kind of elevates up, and you want to kind of put it above your head and down at a 45-degree angle. And you want to also simultaneously get it as close to your face as possible without being on camera to get that nice diffused look. Basically, the closer that you can put this light dome to your face, the more diffused and natural the look that you can get. The next light to consider is the fill light. So just having a key light is not enough. Why? Because it usually creates a shadow on the other side of your face. So my key light is coming in right here, and my fill light, there's actually a light that's right here. But let me actually turn it off just to show you the difference that it makes. So it's a little bit of a subtle difference, but it does sometimes if there aren't, and the one benefit I have is I have a little window right here, which does bring in some light. But the main thing is if you don't fill this light in, you get that sort of proverbial villain on TV look, and you don't want that look, especially if you're recording online courses or doing webinars or even podcasting or any of those. There's a bunch of different great options out there. I use the Falcon Eyes, the F7, and a little pro tip I learned along the way, which is also purchase a 10-foot USB-C to USB cable for this light. And so you basically plug this light into your computer via USB so that it doesn't turn off during a course recording. Now it does have like a battery built in, but when you're doing like long course recordings or you're doing long Zoom meetings or podcast interviews and it's, let's say you do back-to-back, there's always a chance that light could go out, or especially if you forget to charge it. So just to avoid any of that, and I would recommend just getting this USB-C to USB cable. My whole thing when it comes to my home studio setup is I'm not going necessarily more for the most fancy gear. What I'm actually trying to do is what are just the elements that I have where I can plug in literally 3 things and I'm ready to, so it's more of a practical aspect as well. So the next piece is what's called a hair light, and you probably see a little shimmer right here, and there's actually a hair light right above there that's actually propped up on my bookshelf, and it just makes your shoulders pop out a little bit, also gives your hair a little bit more texture and a little bit more intrigue. I basically use the second Falcon Eyes F7 for this, so I have a second USB-C to USB cable as well, just in case, to avoid anything going out. And so basically I have 2 Falcon Eyes F7s, one for my fill light. It's connected to a windowsill that I have right next to me. The other is clamped up on my bookshelf with what's called a magic arm and a clamp. And those 2 combos seem to work and light up really well. So those are basically the 3 lights that I would work with. So what is called a key light, a fill light, and a hair light. Now, what you want to next do is you want to layer that by adding what are called practical lights or practicals. These lights basically create intrigue. For me personally, I'm going for a fireside chat sort of vibe. So anyone that when I'm recording an online course, I want folks to feel like we're sitting around a campfire just enjoying a conversation versus a straight lecture. I'm also using them to give practicals, basically to give people's eyes places to rest versus just staring at me. So you'll notice I have some practicals here on the side. I've also got a practical that's behind me, which I'll go into, but it also just kind of lights up things and makes it a lot easier. So a couple things on practicals. So especially these 2 lights here at the bottom, I actually have them on dimmer switches. And so they're these, you can purchase them on Amazon. And what they do is they basically plug in to your light and then you plug it into the outlet. And you can turn up and down the intensity of the light. And so if I didn't have the dimmer light, or if I didn't have dimmers on, they would be a lot more intense and they wouldn't create that sort of fireside chat vibe. Also, these lights are what are called Edison lights. And basically you can find them on Amazon. I like to get the ones with an amber tint, and it creates that sort of warmness, but it also creates some pretty cool shadows if you can look, in the background, and just creates a lot of intrigue. Basically, think about how folks can, their eyes can rest and just give them a place where they feel calm and serve. At least that's the look that I'm going for as a creator. Now, I just mentioned this, but this is sort of great here. This is the Aputure Ascent B7C, and it's used on a lot of motion picture sets. In my studio, you don't really see it because it's, again, behind me. So what I'm basically using it to do is add sparkle to my green plate right here. And then the true magic of this light is you can actually change up colors via via an app. So they actually have this entire app that's built into your phone, and literally you can change all sorts of different colors. So generally I try to go for, if I'm just doing recordings, I'll have that kind of look, but you can also do more of like a blue look, or if you want to, let them bury it up, that's a little intense, maybe like a green or an orange. There's lots of interesting things that you can do with these lights. The second really cool thing about this Aputure is it has an internal battery, so you can remove it completely from the plug, and you can basically turn it on and off as long as it's charged, and you can add any sort of supplemental lighting So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, just summary, a key light is the main light that's used to create that more natural look. look and it's coming from right here on this shot, and a fill light is to avoid that villain look and it's coming from right here. Hair light pulls us forward, it amplifies depth, and then we've got practicals to add intrigue and also depth and just give our places eyes to rest. And then the aperture is just to kind of change up the background and vary up things a little bit. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time.